Warning. This episode of Seriously Wrong is only for smooth daddies and their little furry babies. Wow.
Imagine if we were born covered in fur and just got more and more bald as we got old.
That'd be good.
Really like that.
I wish.
So it just goes to show intelligent design is not what happened because...
Yeah, if there's any sense to this world.
It'd be an easy way to tell age. How
Die
thick is your
completely
fur?
hairless, no eyebrows, no armpit hair, no pubic hair.
Mm-hmm.
So in puberty, most of your hair would fall off.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Seriously Wrong podcast.
My name is Shawn, and I'm one of the hosts of the show, along with Aaron.
And today's episode is about fur and voting.
Actually, let's just have a quick vote on what this episode's going to be about.
Okay.
I vote fur.
I vote voting.
Okay, so it's a tiebreaker. We need a judicial recount.
Okay, let's try again. What was your vote again?
For an episode about fur.
And mine was for an episode about voting.
Oh, so it's a tie.
Yeah, shit. Voting doesn't work, everyone. Welcome to the show.
Voting didn't work. Welcome to the show.
No, I said doesn't work. Like, this just proved it.
Okay, well, no, I disagree.
Democracy disproved.
Okay, let's have a quick vote. I vote that voting didn't work this time, but can work in principle.
I vote that this proved voting will never work.
Tie.
It's strange. It didn't work again. Just goes to my theory.
I don't know. I think there's an argument to be made that although we have shown two examples of voting not working, that voting in principle still could work.
It seems theoretical to me, but...
You know what? I'm going to change my vote to make this episode about voting because I want to get to the bottom of this. And I understand fur very well.
Oh, shit. So now it is working. Now we figured it out.
Yeah,
We're going to do an episode about voting.
Yeah, it just took 2 recounts and someone changing their vote.
Yeah, the system works.
The system works.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Oh man, some people need to self-crit or quit. That's what I always say. Listen up, your politics are bad news. Get them fixed.
Seriously wrong. 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 Seriously wrong.
Today's episode of Seriously Wrong is brought to you by...
Vote for yourself.
It's a new movement that's taking over the country. In every district, we're finding people who are willing to sign up and say, you know what, I've had it up to here with these politicians. Things got to change. This time, I'm voting for myself.
So all you need to do to join the movement is fill out, 8 to 10 pages of paperwork, put down $1,000 deposit, get 250 people to vouch for you, and get your name on the ballot. And then vote for you for once. And the ultimate goal of the Vote for Yourself movement is to have everybody in the country vote for themselves. Picture it.
No winner.
No winner.
Perfect tie.
All winners. 37 million people voted. 37 million people voted for themselves. Then what's the government going to do? It's going to be a new day. It's going to be a day where we all have a say.
When someone says vote for me, you say, why? I'm not you.
Vote for yourself for once.
Vote for yourself. It's a new movement. Although you and I, Aaron, agree on a great deal of things, a legitimate tension between our ideologies of the world is our stances on voting, or at least our actions towards voting, right?
Yeah. The only times I've voted recently were under heavy pressure from you.
Doing my work.
Yeah, I have a lot of trouble seeing the point. And it's weird because, if you ask me, would I rather live in a system where people can't vote? When I look at those countries where that's the case, it's generally no.
Yeah,
I like this. This is better.
I was just thinking about this because, in interacting with authoritarians on the internet,
I'll defend voting.
You're very strongly on the liberal democracy side.
Yeah. No, it's great. People should have a say. And
when you're talking about Stalinism, you're like vote. But then it's when it's voting day, you're like, well, it's not going to matter.
I have so much trouble getting over the math aspect of looking at election results and then like if I did vote, subtract my number from the thing and seeing, oh, how is the results different? Or adding, if I didn't vote, adding my number to the total, like what would I have voted for and how would that have changed that, the statistical nothingness of it.
Okay, well, I believe in voting. I believe it's something that is ideal to do. I'm not huge on like finger wagging people who don't vote and calling them bad or something, but I am about encouraging them to vote, and especially because it really depends on the election. Like when you look at the data at the end of it and the numerical counts, exactly like whether or not you would have changed the outcome yourself personally. But like voting isn't about one person changing the outcome personally. Like that's a misunderstanding of the point of voting in the first place. It's about like it's a cumulative expression of thousands of people. So like every time I voted, with there's a few exceptions, but vast majority of the time I voted in a safe leftist riding and contributed to a landslide victory for my preferred candidate. But that doesn't mean it didn't have an effect. Like I legitimately contributed among with thousands of other people to a landslide victory for a good candidate.
Part of me wants to say you didn't contribute because if it still would have been a landslide if you weren't there. But then like if you say that about every single person that nobody contributed, then there's nothing there. So it's like it's a logical non-starter to say it was a zero contribution. It's just like, I don't know, I guess you have to learn to appreciate this 0.0 whatever percentage you might move the needle.
It's also
like just not think about the numbers in that way.
Because even in safe ridings for good candidates, which there's places in Canada where you have that. It's like a safe riding for a candidate that matches my politics fairly well. Even in those places, like even if the polling is saying that it's safe and they're likely going to win, not until the ballots are counted is it really done, like, and it's possible that people not coming out to vote makes the difference between a good candidate and a bad candidate, or a bad candidate and a worse candidate, or
like a narrative floating around that this, like I didn't vote in this most recent provincial election in BC here, and one of the reasons that I told myself, besides this whole math thing that I get hung up on like every time, was just like, well, the NDP is going to win my riding anyway. They've been winning it every time for a long time. And they did win. So, but yeah, like, yes, potentially that narrative could contribute to an effect where so many people who would have voted for the NDP feel that it's safe, feel that they don't have to go out and vote, and they end up losing the riding. The chances that whether or not you show up and vote is going to change the election is like basically none. I read some libertarian article. I think he calculated it based on the number of times it's happened in American history as like 1 in 60 million. There's a 1 in 60 million chance that your vote would be the one that decided just based on how many elections there's been and how many times it's come down to one vote.
The selling point for voting shouldn't be it's going to come down to one vote. I don't think that's. I was working on a campaign recently. We had a volunteer calling people, encouraging them to vote, and she kept on saying, "This is going to be really close. It could come down to 1 or 2 votes." And every time
someone was saying, one of the other volunteers, yeah.
So it would make me laugh every time.
Because it's intuitively like, if I believed that to be true, I would be very apt to want to go vote. I'm there every time. I'll spend the half hour or whatever it takes to walk to the school 2 blocks away and vote.
Okay, well, so there's a couple points I'd want to make on this, which is like, first of all, we've got this really atomized idea of democracy that when we're voting, it's happening in a vacuum where we're just one person going into a booth. We're not really talking about our decision. We're checking the box and we're leaving, going on with our lives and stuff. Whereas I think the historical context, that like the idea of democracy is more about conversations between people voting in blocks and groups. The whole is an impolite to talk about religion or politics type thing where like, oh no, I make my voting decisions based on the TV ads and I don't talk to anyone about what I think, but I'll watch the ads and then I'll go down to the booth, check my box, and I'm done. That's
Yeah.
democracy. I think that's actually really damaging, a really bad form of democracy, where I think democracy should be based on conversation.
Yeah, I like conversations. Like I feel like I'm doing more if I talk about an election or a result I'd like to see and have a certain amount of people listen to me, and if I have the potential to affect some people's decisions, like very quickly that could be orders of magnitude more effective than my vote alone. So then it doesn't even really matter if I go and vote. If I affected 1,000 people to go vote, then like
Why not just make it 1,001? Just why not vote?
well, I mean, you could, but I'm just saying, like, I definitely agree with the larger process. Like earlier, you mentioned talking about dictatorships, and
If we're arguing with a Stalinist on the internet, someone who's just legitimately,
well, yeah, when you're arguing with a Stalinist, they'll say it is a democracy. It's a one-party system. It's democratic centralism. It's everyone votes, and then once you vote, there's unity behind the decision, and basically you shouldn't dissent. There's no factions are banned, and like disagreements are banned. So like they have the voting aspect of democracy like technically in place there as long as you join the party, but they don't have a lot of those other aspects because you're not allowed to really disagree after the vote takes place or after the policy's been set. So like, I just think that's a really good point, that there's a lot more to democracy than just going into the voting booth and voting.
and it just,
So that part, you could probably just dispense with. You don't even need to do it. I like all the other parts of democracy better.
I'm not a super expert on it, but I was just reading someone recently talking about the early Russian Revolution, where apparently that type of dissent and discussion and open disagreement was actually encouraged and part of the process for a long time. And then at some point there was a stagnation, switches in powers is when it became this ruthless mind control-y thing.
Yeah, I've read one book about it.
I read half a Jacobin article about it.
The way this book laid it out was that there was the February Revolution that took out the Tsar, and then there was this provisional government going on, and a whole bunch of socialist parties and some liberal parties in the provisional assembly. I can't remember what it's called, the Duma, and then there was a lot of like discussion and different like factions and like this sort of vibrant political thing going on. But then it was the October Revolution when the Bolsheviks seized power, when all that stuff was kind of shut down and the single party was given the power to create legislation on its own.
Just reminds me how much I love liberal pluralism.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons that it's more tempting to not vote is because if you're not plugged into the differences between the parties, the drama that's going on in the parties, if you're not plugged into the political story at the time, it's easier to not really care and not think about it and just let it pass by. But if you're participating in all the rest of it, that is engaging with people about the issues, talking to people who are voting different ways, trying to convince people to vote the way that you'd like them to see, if you're plugged in with the drama, plugged in with the current events, watching what happens, then when it comes to election day, even though you know that your little vote is just a tiny drop in the bucket, you just get it out of the way and do it because it's part of this overall process.
You're gonna want to drop in that bucket.
Yeah, because you're invested in it. You're invested in the outcome of the story at that point. Eric Andwell, who's on our episode about GMOs a couple years back, he said to me once, political life is this big, diverse thing. There's a lot of different things you can do with direct action, organizing your communities, petitions, lobbying, et cetera, et cetera. And all of it's important. And voting is part of that, and it's important. And so not voting is like brushing, like if you're a political person, it's like brushing all your teeth except just leaving one tooth that you never brush. And that's voting. It's like it's a small part of the overall big political smile. But
this is just one thought I have based on what you're saying, and it's a can of worms, so we should probably not get too deep into it. But the participating in the conversation leading up to the election and stuff, the way you're talking about, I'm just like very aware right now of how difficult that is. Like when we were doing the last season of the show and doing those What to Think episodes, I was like following the news all the time. Like I was reading the news every day and watching a little bit every day, like just like keeping up with all the news stories that were relevant. And then when we went on break, I was kind of like, oh, I don't need to like be so on top of the news. And I was like, I'm going to start reading some books again. So I started like reading books and I stopped following the news. Like it just the time spent flipped over into this other thing. And it's like, I could do half as much as both, but it's just that there's time management issues and like the way that we have so much to do. And that's another thing to do. And it's hard.
Yeah, no, that's a good question that raises, how to make participation in public life not feel like another thing on your list of chores.
They should pay people to participate in and to like learn about the conversation, the political conversations going on. There should be like 1 day a week where you spend your 8-hour shift, not at your job, but at a discussion center or something. I don't know, somewhere where there's like lots of things to learn about, lots of like, you can get up to date on everything that's going on once a week. You get paid for it, same as your job.
Have we talked about this before?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I just thought of it.
Okay, but it's amazing you thought of that, because I completely forgot about this, but had the same idea once. And it's like, and you just came up with that, so you're a genius.
And you're a genius also. I'll believe you that
but
you came up with it.
I wasn't
before.
smart enough to remember. I mean, that's part of the reason it's really blowing my mind right now, is because I'm like, I already agree with this. Like that's exactly what we need to do. Because when I ran for office,
and I voted for you,
and you voted for me, that I voted for myself also.
I feel like my vote counted that time because it like
you got me up to 188 votes.
Yeah, instead of 187.
Yeah, which would have been humiliating. Part of my platform was reducing the workday to 6 hours. Because historically we've shortened work days over time to 40-hour weeks, but it's acted kind of like it's just inevitable that it's going to stop at this. Like even though back in, I think even like Richard Nixon predicted the work week would get shorter when he was president. So I wanted to bring that back for my campaign because I knew it was like really outside of, but that was when the idea, actually maybe even like, maybe it wasn't my idea, but maybe it was something that like you said that inspired it or something. Like maybe that's why there's that continuity. I give Aaron full credit. But it's just this idea that you can have part of your week, even 1 day every week, where you're paid to participate in political life. It's an amazing solution. Anyway, this is just a tangent talking about myself, but I agree with you. That's really good. That's like a really great idea. I want to explore that more.
So you gonna vote this time around, this election?
No way, dude. I don't vote. No matter who,
never?
Yeah, no matter who you vote for, man, government still wins. That's what I always say. If anything changed from voting, they make it illegal.
I mean, but like countries where you can't vote,
yeah, they
do you think there's no big
difference?
Get the right to vote I'm actually just glad that I have the right to vote, even if I don't want to vote every time.
They shouldn't get the right to vote in those countries.
Oh, so it's
voting's
good.
Pointless anyways.
Right.
I wouldn't care if women lost the right to vote, because it doesn't matter anyways.
Okay, but I mean, this time around, the right-wing party is promising to like massively defund like our healthcare. I mean, I don't want to make you vote or anything. I just think
it feels like you're trying, bro.
I just think sometimes
feels like you're trying, but I'm strong.
I just said, I don't even vote. I didn't vote last election. I just think I'm going to vote in this one. Like, do you have a problem with that?
Yeah, you're signing up for the system. You're putting on the dotted line. I support this. Whatever this thing does. There's like this big crazy beast, right? It's called the government. Mm-hmm. And when you vote, you're signing up.
So it's better to like not try to tame the beast, but just make fun of the people who are trying to tame the beast.
Well, yeah, because they're weak. They're dumb. That's definitely funny. Now that you mention it. But what we should do, right, man, is like just get separate. Beast over there. We're over here. Right? Do our own thing.
Get separate. Okay, that's the answer. Get separate. Right. And
from that beast, man.
Huh.
It's
fascinating ideas. Anyway, I still think I'm gonna vote this time around.
About writing a book about it. Well, if you can't, you're part of all the theft from taxation.
Yeah,
you're part of that. You signed up for it.
Well, no.
See, I don't sign up for it. I get separate.
Get separate. Well, I don't know.
Try it, man.
Do you have a blog or anything I could read?
Yeah, getseparate.net. It's for people who don't even want to participate in the whole thing, man.
Sounds like a movement. Cool. Sounds like you're starting a movement.
It's definitely growing every day.
Well, I got to say, like, I don't make decisions quickly like this, like to totally change my outlook on voting, but I've never heard this idea get separate before. It's
It's a way to be above
precise.
it all.
I like it. Right. To be above. Yeah.
That's why we had to start this movement, man. Get separate.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm liking it. I'm going to check out the website first, but you may have a new.
So listen,
recruit.
man, we charge to sign up for Get Separate, right?
Okay. Makes sense.
You got to keep the server lights on, right?
Right. Yeah.
But because you're a good guy, I'll lower it. But you got to act now.
Oh.
Right? Like,
what's the regular
in the next
price?
10 minutes?
And
regular price 60.
60
a month.
A month. Oh.
And that's going to give you live updates. I can tell you're a cool guy. I'll bump that down for just 17.
17 a month. Well,
Yeah.
that's even more than 50% off.
Got to act now, though.
All right.
Every
you need my
month.
credit card?
I do.
Okay, here. Can I just hand the physical card to you right
Yeah,
here?
yeah,
and
no
you'll,
problem,
and
man.
you'll take the information.
Yeah, it's all good. What's your current billing address?
Oh, you know what? I'll just text it to you.
I'm so stoked to have you on board.
Yeah, Get Separate. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I'm not going to vote in this election. You
Good.
convinced me. All right. So going into this episode, I kind of figured I'd be playing the non-voter because I've often not voted, and you'd be playing the pro-voter. So I compiled a list of reasons not to vote.
But no, it's an interesting, just a little microcosm about our relationship as a voter, but not just a voter, but like a voter plus, a super voter. I increased the vote share by encouraging you to vote more than once.
You had 2 votes, kind of.
You voted the way that you wanted to still. I mean, I wasn't there, but I didn't have a gun to your head.
No, but I did vote the way you wanted me to, both times.
Sure. That's the power of being a voter plus. A voter plus plus.
An influencer, they call them.
Super voter.
Yeah, super voter. Okay, well, the first one is just like the classic critique of democracy, which is that the masses are idiots. People are intuitive, irrational animals who vote based on like charismatic leaders and not based on principles, not based on facts, not based on anything. They're low information voters. They're uninformed. They, by all accounts, should not be participating in government because they don't know what they're talking about. And having them rule the country is just idiotic. Should I just go through all these, or do you want to rebut in between?
I'm more tempted to rebut than I thought I would be. I'll rebut. Okay, so I think that there's some interesting questions there about what motivates voter behavior, and I think it's definitely true that voters aren't motivated by the reasons that you would hope they would be. Like they aren't like super rational. In doing stuff like going door to door, I've talked to voters who are motivated by the most irrational shit in the world. Like in this last provincial election, the leader of the NDP had a goatee. And I talked to a woman who wasn't going to vote for him because he had a goatee.
Just really hates goatees.
Yeah, and she was like, pass this on to him. Let him know that facial hair, it carries bacteria and stuff. And I was like, yeah, but like you want to fund schools and hospitals, right? And she's like, I do. No, I do. I'm just not going to vote this time. He's got to cut off that goatee.
So it's any facial hair? She just hates all of it?
I think so, yeah.
Did you have facial hair at the time?
I did, but I wasn't running. You know, I was just
I know, but I'm just wondering if she was like glancing down, like eyeing your beard, thinking like, oh, it's just crawling with dirty, gross bacteria.
She probably was. I didn't even think of it. I didn't even... I was more just amazed. Like, I wasn't like, oh my God, does she not like me? I was like, oh my God, is she real?
But like, so this just goes to show how irrational people are.
Yeah. So getting back to your key point, whether it's democratic, if it's a meritocratic system, a technocratic system, if it's the rule by the elite over everyone else, or it's just a bunch of individuals without any rulers, these irrationalities are going to exist no matter what. So it's not so much a problem with democracy as it's one of the things that we need to overcome in making a functioning democracy or making a functioning system at all.
Another thing is that many people feel like the issues they really care about aren't up for vote anyway. This is ideas of these bipartisan consensuses on various issues, the war on drugs, prison reform, civil rights issues, climate change, depending on if you want like radical climate change laws implemented immediately, there's no one to vote for that. The point being, the things people really care about are rarely up for change in an election, or like more than like minor course correction.
I think there's some truth in that, although it seems on a social and political trajectory right now towards more of that. There's been an increased awareness of these issues and an increased amount of campaigning on them. And I think
it's only a matter of time before we have a mainstream political candidate saying they're going to legalize all drugs.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely within probably the next decade or so. But I mean, it's already happened in other parts of the world, right?
Yeah.
Or decriminalizing all drugs.
Yeah.
And also, if like you listed a lot of things that are kind of from a more radical social libertarian anarchist perspective, and I find myself, I agree with them. We're still kind of like a fringe group of society. Like most voters aren't motivated by those things. Most current voters anyways. Maybe a lot of non-voters would be, and they would go out and vote if they saw it.
This little list was based on an article called Why Young People Don't Vote or something to that effect. And these were the issues that young people felt that weren't being addressed, that was why they weren't voting.
In the absence of those issues being addressed, which I think they should be, there's a phrase I've seen thrown around recently, which is voting is a chess move, not a Valentine. If you are serious about seeing change on those things, there are parties that are more or less open to discussions on them. And there are governments that are more or less open to listening to feedback from the population in general. So even if at the very least you're an activist and you're electing your next opposition, you're electing the next person that you're going to be fighting against for these things, then you want to elect the person who's at least in theory more open to it, or more open to negotiations with the public on that type of thing.
Yeah, unless you're an accelerationist.
Unless you're a certain type of specific, what I would call bad accelerationist, where you just want to elect like a totalitarian dictator who's going to make all those things way worse, under the hope that would convince everyone to start believing in the same things you do. And also assuming that you get to keep democracy after that, and then have society collapse, and then have, I don't know.
This one was kind of part of the one I just said, but that there's such a gulf between what candidates say they will do and what they actually end up doing, that to vote for any candidate based on what they say they're going to do is a stupid, irrational thing to do. Like the idea that it's impossible to trust these candidates to follow through on, even if they're making promises that you like, the apathy is backed up by the evidence. It's a rational kind of apathy to say they're probably not going to do that anyway. Why should I lend them my metaphysical support of one vote?
I think it is a real problem, especially just for the effect that it has on politics when people break major promises, like where you have in our federal government here with the Liberals. They've broken their promise to make this the last election under first past the post. They promised electoral reform, and then they reneged on that.
Yeah.
After, I think it's something like 90% of the experts and 80% of the public all agreed that they should move to a proportional system. They said there was no consensus.
Well, that's not a consensus is 100%.
Yeah, we were hoping when we promised there would be our last election under first past the post, we were hoping that we would get 100% of Canadians to agree with us on a specific change. That type of shit is like really brutal, like lying to the public. You know, it shouldn't happen. But I would disagree that the apathy is rational. I think that outrage when people break promises is rational. Apathy is irrational because you're withdrawing from the process. And when you withdraw, you let them get away with it. That doesn't fix the problem. But if you break a promise and that puts your job at risk, puts public perception of you at risk, puts you under attack, not physical attack, but
oh yeah, it was like the word guillotine was floating through my mind. I'm not in favor of guillotining anyone, but
I'm definitely I'm a guillotine skeptic for sure. But I don't think it causes the social change to the degree it needs to. But if people are outraged and engaged around this stuff, it makes it harder and harder for people to break their promises. And I think a lot of politicians are really careful about trying to say only things they can deliver on. And even a lot of the liberals who ended up, voting against the electoral reform, I think a good chunk of them are genuinely sorry that they campaigned on something they're not delivering.
Well, I'm glad they're sorry, at least.
Yeah. Well, actually, two of them, there was recently in the federal parliament, I think it was led by Nathan Cullen of the New Democrats, but also the Conservatives and single Green MP Elizabeth May also voted with him to basically call out the government on reneging on this, and basically proposed bringing electoral reform, and all of the liberals voted against it except for two, which voted in favor. And I think those two liberals, they're good people. They're not liars. It has no effect on what happened in the system because they needed 20 liberals. But anyway.
Welcome to Keyboard Warrior Radio Theater.
Ha ha ha, not going to vote today. Got the whole day free to do whatever I want because I'm not going out to vote because I'm not supporting this stupid government. Feeling good.
Yeah, I'm not going to vote either because I believe in true feminine direct democracy, egalitarian. This is just a phallocentric male-topia where the government plays the role of the receiving womb for you to deposit. The vote is the phallus ejaculating. I'm totally against it.
I couldn't agree more. Like, if you ask me what the phallus should be doing, is buying guns and protecting your property because the government's not going to do it for you. And if you think you're doing something masculine by voting, then contributes to the feminization of the whole society, which the government is, as a paternal institution, is doing anyways, taking the place of the fathers in these families and single. Don't get me started. But not voting, it's going to take all the power away from the government. Don't vote, go buy a gun.
I agree so much with you on not voting. It's so important that people take their power back to their communities. And you're absolutely right. Arm themselves. Arm themselves for proletarian revolution. You can so tell voting was invented by a man. You know what I mean? You can just tell. I mean, for years and years, for hundreds of years, women were excluded from the process. We women had to fight for our rights to vote and have our ballot counted. And then for nothing. Just turns out it's still a man's game. You can't play it. You can't take down the owner's tool shed with his tools. So that's why I'm glad you're not voting, and I'm also not going to vote.
Yep. Voting is the tools of the government. And, why do they always got to get up in your grill and prevent you from doing things? You want to start a business. The government says no. The government says, give me $10,000 to start your business. You're a woman. You want to go work. The government says no. You got to stay at home and cook for your husband. And always in the way. You're a kid. You're 10 years old. You want to start taking on some responsibility for the family. Get a job at a factory. The government says, no, child labor laws. It's wrong. Just need to take responsibility for their own lives, personal responsibility, and not vote. The greatest abdication of personal responsibility is voting.
Yeah, I agree. I'm so mindless. I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote for a white supremacist, male patriarchy. It's disgusting to participate in voting, and I'm so glad you don't.
Could not agree more. Voting is bad. Voting is bad.
Yeah, voting is, I'm against it.
If you're reading this thread, I hope you came away with one thing. I'm not voting.
Here, let's try saying it one word at a time, what the takeaway from the thread is. I'll go first. Don't
vote.
Nice, we did it.
And we'll see you next time for another episode of Keyboard Warrior Radio Theater.
Welcome to a new part of our show based on neologisms. That's invented words. It's called Wrong Boys Dictionary Time.
We wanted to invent a title for the segment that used the jism and neologism, like somehow made a pun out of that, but there's nothing really
It's
that
just too
great.
vulgar to like say it repeatedly. Like I want to return to this segment because but just this,
Yeah, if we always had to like neologism and there was like a jizzing splash sound, it would be a weird segment. So
Yeah.
it's not called that. It's just
Or
called, what did we call it? The Wrong Boys Dictionary, you said?
Wrong Boys Dictionary
Yeah,
Time.
we went with that instead. Just FYI, behind the scenes.
Little behind the scenes stuff.
So what's today's neologism?
It's called jabroni socialism. Jabroni socialism. So in wrestling, a jabroni is a wrestler who is scheduled to fail, who exists there only to be a foil. He exists to lose to heroes or to lose in upsets. He's designed to fail. So jabroni socialism is the intentional misuse of state resources with the intent to cause public sector things like healthcare or education to fail, cause them to go into debt, and then use that as an excuse to sell it to their friends and privatize it. That's jabroni socialism. Public sector resources intentionally mismanaged to use as a pretense for privatization.
The final one, well, it's actually two, but they're kind of both of the same structure, just coming from two different perspectives. The basic idea is that voting is immoral because you are supporting a government that is inherently illegitimate. If you're a right-wing libertarian, it's inherently illegitimate because it's enforced through violence and taxation is theft, and the government has a monopoly on violence and they shouldn't, and you're participating in the election of the gang leader who's going to control the turf that you're unable to be free within. From a left-wing social justice perspective, you are lending support to a white supremacist, racist, patriarchal, hetero cis sexist system that is oppressing every kind of minority you can think of, and you're there saying, yep, I'm going to vote for you, stamp of approval, to keep doing that, because no one's like seriously suggesting we completely eliminate all of those things. Like there's no perfect social justice candidate who is saying and also has the power to fix all those things. So whoever you're voting for, you're lending support to someone who is going to continue on in that system. The only way to truly fix those things is revolution, is guillotine. The only way to truly fix those things from the right libertarian perspective is to, I don't know, make the government smaller until it disappears and give everyone guns or something. But yeah, the basic idea, government is immoral. You shouldn't be lending your support to it. You have no right to complain if you vote because you voted and you participated.
That's that reversal of like, there's a classic, if you don't vote, you don't have a right to complain.
Yeah, and the reversal is, I didn't vote, I didn't participate.
Yeah,
I'm the only one with the right to complain. Mm-hmm. You're the ones who all did this thing.
You all consented to voting, which just doesn't work. You by casting your ballot, you said, yes, I'm part of this monstrosity.
Oh, one other argument against voting I feel like I'd just throw out there was that the people who really rule the country are the capital owners. So it's kind of just for show. It's a similar vein of an argument. It's that you're lending legitimacy to, you're propping up the property system instead of like, let's talking about intersecting oppressions. Let's talk about class oppression, and you're just lending support to the system that is keeping the propertied class in power with the police who are, helping them protect their wealth rather than redistributing it.
Yeah.
I love just being able to throw these out and then you have to think of answers.
The anti-property bloc, like the activists out there who are working on...
You mean real leftists? Of which we are not a part.
If they wanted to try to work to like build dual power or something and have local communal areas based on usufruct and like access rather than ownership and that type of stuff, if they wanted to do that, like, all the power to them. I would prefer if They listen to their friends who are plugged into the electoral thing about what's going on, and made a little bit time on an advanced voting day to go out there and just throw a ballot in to help keep parties in power that aren't explicitly hostile towards human-led organizing. There are some parties that are more or less open to political organizing, political action, and conceding to demands by protesters and stuff. I think it just makes sense to participate in, to try to make sure that the police aren't going to be sent to crush whatever you're doing, as like a mode of harm reduction. Like I said, it's a chess move, not a Valentine.
Right. Harm reduction's a good way to think about it for all three of these kind of you're legitimizing an illegitimate system lines of argument, which is like, if you're a right-wing libertarian, there's certain candidates who care more about the types of liberties that you care about, and certain ones that don't, and you can vote for the ones who do and see that as the lesser of two evils. You got to get into the lesser of two
and
evils.
You don't need to like emotionally invest in any candidate as a panacea who's going to perfectly solve everything. Like, you don't, in order to cast a ballot, you don't need to fully believe that whoever you're voting for is perfect and will solve all problems and is exactly like you.
That's only happened to me once when I was voting for a candidate.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no, it wasn't you. It was, no, I don't know. It was you. I was going to like pick some name that I voted for but I don't know anyone else that I voted for. I have no idea who they are. So, yeah. And likewise, there's candidates who are going to do more and less to change the racist and patriarchal outcomes of the way that our system is set up right now. And so, voting for Bernie Sanders over Donald Trump probably would have made things better for minorities in America. You can't say for sure, but it's probably, even if Bernie Sanders isn't the perfect Luxembourgist who's going to solve
late
all those
Luxemburgist, not early Luxemburgist.
is late Luxemburgist better?
Well, she was more radical. Like, early Luxembourg helped get the Social Democratic Party to power, that ended up eventually sending proto-Nazis to kill her.
Can we blame Hitler on Rosa?
I'm against it. I used to be more about disrespecting the dead than I am now, but now I kind of want to not disrespect the dead.
It's okay to disrespect Hitler.
Well, yeah, no, that was no, I was talking about Rosa.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
Okay, but on the subject of voting as a white supremacist, imperialist, etc., bad.
You're lending your support to the colonial state by voting.
Okay, well, first of all, not voting is not recorded. So a lot of people who don't vote legitimately don't care who wins at all, and they don't care about politics, and they think everything is fine. No matter who wins, it'll be fine. There's other people who don't vote because they're really deeply invested in politics. They will really hate for certain people to win, like, the Donald Trump type, or if maybe they're right libertarian anarchists and they really don't want big government people to win or whatever. The system has a means of listening to you in whatever small way that is, and you're choosing to not speak to it. So I don't, if people don't want to vote, I'm not going to go knocking on their door and yell at them or something.
You don't want to make it illegal
to not vote. Well, I kind of like, the system where it costs $20 to not vote is pretty cool.
Yeah, I like a reverse system where you get paid $50 to vote and it doesn't cost anything to not vote.
Sure, yeah.
That's better for me. Feels less gross to give instead of take, to give the carrot instead of the stick. I like carrots.
But on the subject of white supremacy and voting, I think, and like racism and structural inequality, colonialism, I think it's really worth talking about and thinking about how recently people have been given the right to vote, which is like kind of startlingly recently. Like in Canada, I think it was something like 1960 that Indigenous people got the right to vote in Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's like pretty recently. It's like 50, 60 years ago.
When did women? Do you know when women could vote in Canada?
Yeah. So in a sense, I really win male feminism today, because in my hometown, the place that I'm from, Winnipeg, it's the first place in Canada women were allowed to vote in provincial elections. On January 20th, 1916, white women got the right to vote. The reason I specify white women is because indigenous women couldn't vote, and then there were also some limitations on certain races voting in certain areas, although I'm not sure about in Manitoba. But actually, indigenous men could vote at that time if they relinquished their Indian status. They relinquished their legal...
Right, you choose. You're either a citizen who can vote, or you're a legal indigenous. I don't know what it would have been called at that time, but
yeah,
or even what it's called
Indian.
now. Did they have legal Indian status? Is that what they called it?
Yeah. So technically, they could vote if they both relinquished their Indian status and became a property owner.
How much property do they got to own? Like a house?
Yeah, I think
No,
it was.
not
I think it was land,
Right.
not like
Yeah, that's
like some crayons, but like a property.
Right.
In September of 1917, some white women across Canada were given the right to vote, but there was a War Measures Voting Act, and it took away the right to vote for German, Ukrainian, and Polish men because they were at war with Germany, which had occupied Ukraine and Poland.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of in exchange for that, or in the same act, not really an exchange, it's not, women were allowed to vote if they were married to people who were deployed. So like...
like kind of in lieu of them, because their husbands couldn't vote from overseas, right? Like the women were just kind of voting the family vote or something.
Mm-hmm. And also part of the reason that decision was made is because if the people at war couldn't vote, the people who were in favor of war or in favor of going to fight in wars would be decreased. So like you can have an anti-war vote more easily because all the people who support the war the most are off fighting wars.
Oh, right.
And the families of service members are strongly in favor of conscription, war, and supporting our troops. And just another interesting thing from Canadian history I found is that Inuit, so like northern indigenous people in Canada, legally had the right to vote for 12 years before there were ever any ballot boxes sent up there. So like they legally had the right to vote, but there was no voting location for thousands of miles for like 12 years.
But if they could drive thousands of miles if they wanted to and vote, or because like now, like I can't just go vote anywhere I want. Like I got to vote near me, right? Isn't that kind of the idea?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It depends. In provincial elections, you can vote anywhere in the province if you live in the province.
Oh.
You just have to vote for the riding you live in. But I'm not sure how it was back then. All I know is that they didn't have any ballot boxes up in the north, but they were legally allowed to vote, which is like a
sick joke.
It's a sick joke. Yeah. Oh, and another thing is actually although there were some limitations on certain races voting in different areas, like the law called them Asiatic people weren't allowed to vote in BC for a long time.
Right.
And also in Saskatchewan, I think. But no matter your nationality, including Indigenous, Polish, or whatever, if you fought in the war, you were permanently allowed to vote when you came back as like a thank you for fighting in the war. So you could be a status Indian and vote
if you went to the war.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think there's some legitimacy to the critique that the democratic system we have in has a long history of racism and sexism and is tied to power structures, land ownership, and all those critiques have some validity in a historical context. However, democracy in principle gives the means for us to improve along these lines, and we can actually see that there has been some improvement that's happened through the processes of democracy, which include public opinion, good organizing or super voters, and actual votes to put people into power who will change things.
All right, well, that was all my objections. So
I handled them, and
you knocked them down.
Now everyone who listens to the show is going to get out there and vote. They heard not voting debunked once and for all.
So yeah, I don't know. Like you make a ton of great points. Don't get me wrong. You make a ton of great.
Thank you. You too.
But I don't know. I don't think we're gonna get bust through this emotional. Like maybe I can like make myself go vote sometimes if I like really feel. I don't know. I just like
maybe it's just up to the super voters around you to get you out to the polls. Like you're in this middle ground of like you're politically active, but you're not a self-motivated voter. You need...
Yeah, if they made it easier, this is another thing they should do. Make it easier. If I could vote from home from my computer, done. Like I would totally do that. I know it's only a couple blocks away, but it's a couple blocks I won't have to walk.
Let me make my quick case for why you should vote. Number one, voting is fun. It's fun to vote.
Oh my God.
When you go vote,
This is just the biggest load of crap
No,
I've ever heard come out of your mouth.
It's fun.
It is not fun. The last time I went to vote, when I went and voted for you, there was this huge lineup. I stood there for and it was set up in the stupidest way because depending on where you lived, you either had like a number and there was different desks for different numbers, and there was I don't know if it was A, B, C, and D or something like that.
Well,
but there was this huge lineup at C, and A, B, and D are all empty, and you can't go to the other lineups because you're not on their list. It was stupid as fuck. I'm just saying my experience of it hasn't been fun. At best, it's been tolerable.
That's why it's really important that we make voting accessible.
Okay.
And like in the provincial elections here, you could vote at any voting location anywhere in the province. When I went and voted, it took there was no lineup. I just walked in. It was and it was just really easy and quick and
Okay, but fun?
yes.
Okay. What's the fun? I don't know.
It's fun to exert power on the world.
You sound like a dentist telling me that it's fun to brush my teeth.
I do also like the dentist.
I love brushing my teeth. It's fun. No, it's not.
It's more fun than brushing your teeth, for sure. But I do like brushing my teeth.
Okay.
It's a blast.
I know that I'm keeping my teeth clean.
Feels so good to know. Keep my teeth clean. No, I don't know. If you care about the outcome,
right.
It does.
Okay.
It feels good to make it official. Have it recorded.
Okay.
Hey, so do you think you're gonna vote in that election coming up?
Yeah, I'm gonna vote. Of course, I'm gonna vote.
Oh, why?
Well, I mean, it's important. It's the foundation of our democracy, and if you don't do it, you're kind of just shirking your responsibility to society. I don't know. It's just are you not voting? Is that why you asked me that?
I actually haven't voted before. I've thought about voting before, but I never got around to it.
But what thoughts did you have? Because the thoughts that a rational person would have is voting is how I affect my society. Voting is the right thing to do. Voting is very easy. Voting is fun. All these things. You just
if I'm gonna vote, is there one party that's always good that you should just always go with, or should I evaluate every election?
I don't get into that. I don't get into who you're voting for. That's not my bag. I don't really care. Vote for whoever you want. That's the beauty of the system. The beauty of the system is it's your choice. So just get out there and inform yourself.
So
just
I have to inform
watch
myself.
the news every single night. Just spend a lot of time watching the news and thinking about political issues and talking to people about politics. Just that's what I do. I spend a lot of time on this and I put a lot of thought into it.
But I just mean in the event that I don't do all those things because I'm really busy.
But why wouldn't you do those things?
It's
just your basic responsibilities as a citizen.
Yeah, that's another thing. Is I feel if I start voting, then I have to.
If you start voting?
If I do that, then I'm going to have to start watching the news all the time. And
I just think that people who don't do that should probably be punished in some way.
Ooh,
they should
really?
probably, yeah. I mean, in Australia, they charge you a little bit of money, I think, but that, I don't know, that doesn't go far enough for me. It's I don't know, you have to wear a dunce cap walk around the city saying, I didn't vote, I'm an idiot, a t-shirt provided to you by the government for 1 month after the election. People point at you and laugh, and kind of a humiliation ritual.
Okay, well, if I vote, then I don't have to do it.
Right, exactly.
So I'll just go and I'll waltz in there.
And you can point and laugh at the other people.
I want to be on that side of that.
Right. And it's easy to vote.
You know what they say? If there's two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner, better hope you're one of the wolves.
Yep.
That's what I do. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
to that scenario, that people use that as an argument against democracy, but I'm just like, what, would you rather that the wolves and the sheep didn't vote? Maybe one of the wolves is sympathetic to the sheep. Maybe the outcome is not so assured. You know, not all wolves #are bad people.
If wolves are civilized enough to vote, they're certainly civilized enough to not eat a sheep.
Thank you. You know, you get it. You get it.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. Simplest way, you wanna get them? Put it up to a vote. Give them the chance to block the passing of this humiliation ritual.
Right.
Only way we know how. Voting. Gotcha.
My first thought wasn't that we'll actually convert people to vote. My thought was all those idiots who don't vote won't come out to vote to block it. And it'll be 100% support unanimous in favor of the bill. It'll get passed.
Well, that's the thing is voters vote.
Yeah, voters vote. So anyone who votes is going to vote in favor of this because they're going to see how
all
rational
the voters,
it is. And
if everyone comes out and vote.
But everyone won't come out and vote. Just the voters will come out and vote.
Sorry,
anyway,
what are you naming this movement? It's so
movement?
good.
The voting movement?
Yeah, the humiliation, the shaming.
My movement is called Shame the Vote, and we're going to work to get the dunce cap humiliation ritual onto the ballots in 42 states this coming election season. But we can't do it alone. We need your help, and we need you to act now. Put your credit card in an envelope, mail it to us. We'll write down the information on it, and then we'll send it back to you. You can join for the low, low price of just $60 a month. Thank you.
Gotta act now, though.
Intellectually, you got me. Like, you should probably vote. I don't like systems where you can't vote. There's emotional inertia that I don't think we're gonna get through here. But maybe I'll vote next time. We'll see. We'll see if you make me.
If I influence you as a super voter.
Thank you for listening to the podcast, everyone. Hopefully your emotional inertia is less than mine and you're excited to go have fun and vote. It's just a blast at the ballot box.
You know what? It's a blast. You get in there.
You brush your teeth and you just head to the vote.
Brush your teeth. Oh, this feels so good. Knowing that my teeth are clean.
Because you don't want to have bad breath for the person at the voting who's you're giving your information to or whatever. Yeah, it'll be embarrassing. So you brush your teeth, you go vote, you have a good time, head to seriouslywrong.com, click on the contact form, send us your feedback on this episode, send us a voice message. It's all right there on the contact page. Go to the donate section. I think it's just on the sidebar. Patreon. We have a Patreon. Thank you to all the new people who signed up. We've had a couple since the last episode.
Oh, yeah.
Really happy and loving and joyful.
Every time that a new donator signs up, an alarm goes off at Seriously Wrong headquarters. And then me and Aaron both run around in circles going, oh boy, oh gosh, oh, thanks so much. Yay.
It's so true. And if you don't want to do the monthly Patreon thing, PayPal or fake reviews on iTunes, sign up for as many iTunes accounts as you can. Leave us 5-star reviews. We strongly encourage this. This is a joke, or it's a comedy show.
Someone suggested that we mention on the show also for new listeners, which we have quite a bit of, mention some other episodes that are good to check out. You know, the show, if you start at the very beginning, it's a little uneven. We've been doing this for a couple years, and a couple years ago, I feel like I wasn't as good at podcasting as I am now. I think episode 68, sleep deprivation, was pretty good. 67, campaign season, overlaps with this episode a bit, but pretty good. Google Murray Bookchin, episode 96.
Map versus territory. I don't know the number on that one.
Oh, yeah, that's 91.
Also, 2 of my favorites were recent ones, so if you're a new listener, you may have already listened to them, but Human Nature and Meta Mythology, 109 and 111, are 2 of my favorite episodes.
Oh man, some people need to self-crit or quit. That's what I always say. Listen up, your politics are bad news. Get them fixed.
Seriously wrong. 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 seriously wrong.
Today's episode of Seriously Wrong has been brought to you by political movement to pay people to do political things.
So you know how like it's hard to keep up with the news and it's hard to know what everyone's positions are on things, know what the different options are to be well studied in various important political matters of the day?
You're telling me I feel like a low information voter half these elections. I want to know more.
And so we should pay you to learn more.
Oh shit, you're going to give me money?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like
So
politics now.
the rule is double the minimum wage, show up for 8 hours once a week, spend the day in community center learning about important issues. There's a discussion group going on. There's a presentation on both sides of an important issue. There's study area. You can read books. There's a selection of relevant pamphlets and articles and magazines printed out for you. You know, there's chatter in the halls. There's coffee. There's free donuts. There's lunch. You know, you just hang out all day, talk politics, learn about the world once a week, get paid.
Okay, so just abandoning the ad.
Just to talk about the movement directly.
Yeah, I like this idea as an alternative to basic income because it's still universal in the way basic income is.
I guess the only way you could argue that it's not universal is that people might have other they can't block off 8 hours, but it seems hard to make that argument if you're getting paid because it's like if you have to work less at your job, then that's fine.
Well, I think it should be matched with at least an equal reduction in work hours.
Right.
Standardized work day.
Yeah.
Should go down to 4 days instead of 32 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you got
that
room
makes
for
sense.
your 8 hour education day. And you can go down, figure out the age you can start bringing your kids in there, get a little extra cash around the house.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Buy those shoes that kid needs.
Can learn how to manage money. They don't need an allowance. They want to get paid. They're going to go down and learn something. Radical solutions that work.
RSTW. That's what we should call our movement.
Radical solutions that work. It's a bit of a mouthful. RSTW.
Okay, well then what's the name of our movement?
Free money to learn. Free learning money.
Paid to learn.
Paid for cash. Or cash for learn. Paid cash for learning. Do you want to earn money from home?
We're called paycashforlearn.net.
It's a political education fundraising, fund distributing movement. We don't raise the funds, we just distribute them. I figured out the counter argument, obviously. God, I'm so stupid to not think of this. Who's going to pay for it? Me? With my tax money? Come on now. The government can't do anything. You're going to pay the government to indoctrinate children, propagandize them?
I mean, not really propaganda, but yeah, like the government, you know,
everything the government does is inherently tainted.
Federal governments, they have a lot of cash flow. Money comes in, money goes out.
Right. Let's
put it towards this great idea.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you. I'm just trying to think of the counters. Sounds like Maoist re-education. I'm sure someone listening to this at some point in history until I said it was already thinking that it was like communist re-education is what we're advocating.
Oh my God. I just had a horrible nightmare. I had a horrible nightmare that I didn't sign up for paycashforlearn.com.
Oh, that's that new government agency that pays you to learn about political issues, right?
Yeah, it's really great. I signed up for it and it's actually paid time to get involved in the political process. I can self-organize with other people.
And it's at paidcashforlearn.com.
Paidcashforlearn.com, yeah.
Is that for F-O-R or with the
for the number? Paidcashforlearn.com is so great that when I had a dream that I didn't sign up for it, it made me scream because it was so scary.
Yeah, I'm just really glad that I've never had that dream.
Have you signed up for paycashforlearn.com?
Yeah, I have.
That's great.
Yes,
Wow.
I've been signed up for years, and in my dreams, I'm also always signed up for it. So, I've never had, it sounds terrible, this experience you just had. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's something I didn't expect. I've never had a nightmare that's been so visceral. I usually don't even dream at all. Like, I don't remember my dreams in the morning, but this time it was so real. I was there. I didn't sign up for paidcashforlearn.com. It was horrifying. I started screaming and crying, and I woke up in a cold sweat, and I knew I could never let this happen again. I need to get my paidcashforlearn.com.
Paidcashforlearn.com.
Next time on Seriously Wrong, Shawn and Aaron spend all your donation money on cocaine, and it's a really, really good idea.
Paidcashforlearn.com.